Hey everybody, welcome to dotnetFlix. Today our guest is Casper Cramer, and you're going to talk about HashiCorp Vault, right?
That's correct.
Cool.
Yep.
Take it away.
All right. I'm going to talk about HashiCorp Vault, which is a secret management solution.
Okay.
And I'm going to show how you can implement it in your .NET Core applications.
But it's a secret management solution, but you're going to talk about it?
I'm gonna introduce it.
Oh, okay, but it's not a secret solution, but it's a solution to store secrets.
Yes.
Ah, okay, that's
yeah. It's
cool.
a solution to store secrets.
I thought we had a scoop here, but it's not secret for the people out there, but it's okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
So that's similar in nature to something like HashiCorp Vault.
Yeah, it's kind of similar, but HashiCorp Vault is a Azure specific product, and not all people are running on Azure, and some people not yet, and not everybody wants to run on Azure. So not yet, indeed. So there are
working on it.
There are other solutions for that I want to show, and HashiCorp Vault is one of them, and it's open source product from HashiCorp, which is a company which also has products like Vagrant. So I don't know if you know Vagrant. Terraform. So they got a lot of big solutions, and Vault is one of them.
Cool. And you are using this in your current project also, right?
Yep. Yeah, we're using it for 2 years already. I think when it was beta.
Okay.
And currently it's just 1.2, I think.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Nice.
Yep.
Excited.
All right.
Yes. Let's see what it can do.
I'm gonna introduce Vault first, and then I build a demo application in .NET Core, which I'm gonna show how you can integrate those together. And then I also got some takeaways when you want to run this HashiCorp Vault in production. So that's gonna be the structure of the talk.
Sounds good.
Cool. Yep. So first, the use case for secret management, which is a lot of text. But a secret is actually anything that gives a user or a system access to another system. And it can be passwords, for example, but it could also be a TLS certificate or SSH credentials.
Basically anything that you don't want to put into a clear text configuration file or something like that.
Or your source code repository.
Exactly. And every application that you build has secrets. Most of the time there are a lot of secrets, and there are a lot of ways to store these secrets. Good ways and bad ways. People, for example, store them in source code.
Not so good.
Not recommend that. But what you typically see is that they use configuration files, plain text configuration files. Well, there are some problems with this situation because you do not have control over your secrets. You do not know where your secrets are because you have multiple places, and you don't know who has access to those secrets. And if you want something a solution for that, you can use secret management.
Okay.
A term for secret management is a centralized way to store all kinds of secrets, which are tightly managed using access control and auditing. So that's a good terminology.
That centralization also makes it easier, I guess, to change a connection string, because let's say you've got 10 services and they all use the same connection string to connect to some other third-party services or something like that.
And what's in there?
To change it in one place.
And you can audit it in one place, so you can also see who changed what when it comes to secrets. So that's pretty nice.
So can you also store certificates in HashiCorp Vault?
I have a demo prepared where I'm gonna show how you can use dynamic TLS certificates for your applications.
Oh, cool.
So that's one of the features. And you also said moments ago that you have one connection string for multiple services. HashiCorp Vault has features to provide dynamic credentials, which I'm also going to show.
Okay.
So that are some great features.
Nice.
Yep. So that's secret management. If you look at HashiCorp Vault, it's actually the problems that I just introduced are fixed by HashiCorp Vault. And what's great about Vault is that you can integrate it in your system.
Yeah.
Because it has an API.
Okay.
So, that's great. You also have a web UI and a CLI. So you have multiple ways to interact with it.
Cool.
Because, for example, the web UI is easy administration for an admin. But if you want to set up your Vault from the start, you can use the CLI.
Yeah.
And if you want to create credentials or retrieve credentials, you can use the API.
Yeah, and the CLI is also great, I think, for doing this kind of stuff from a DevOps pipeline, for instance.
Yeah, like the infrastructure as code scenario.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what you see is there are a lot of clients created that use the HTTP API.
Okay.
So, for example, Ansible for configuration management has a plugin for Vault to retrieve the secrets from Vault instead of typing them when you start your playbooks.
That's HTTPS, I guess. Yeah.
Well, it depends how you configure it.
Okay.
So you can configure it with HTTP.
Yeah, as long as it stays internal, I guess it's still pretty safe.
You should use HTTPS on all your endpoints. But I'm going to use HTTP because I'm using the dev server for demos.
Yes.
Exactly. Before we go to the demos, there's some terminologies that Vault uses, which are important. The secret engine is the plugin in Vault that can manage specific type of secrets. Okay. So, for example, you have a key value store, secret engine, where you can store key value secrets.
Okay. Yeah.
It's for static credential management. But there's also another secret engine, for example, which is RabbitMQ. And with that secret engine, you can generate credentials on the fly.
Okay.
So that's and there are multiple secret engines. It's very wide for all kind of databases, for example. But you can also create SSH credentials, DLS certificates, etc., etc. I'm not going to talk about all of the secret engines, but I'm going to show a few in the demo.
And those are targeted towards a specific type of product you want to interact with.
Yep.
So you could have a secret engine for SQL database.
Yep.
And if we talk about generating secrets on the fly, is that for rolling over these credentials so that you can change them regularly and then the client can use this secret to connect? That's what you mean with on the fly.
On the fly to create unique credentials for that system for a specific period.
Okay, cool.
Well, there are also multiple auth methods to authenticate with Vault. For example, username password combination. But it can also integrate with the Kubernetes API of the Kubernetes API, and for example OpenID Connect, and so multiple. Yeah.
So it's also true that if you have if you can authenticate with Vault, then you can actually get to several secrets for different products. So you don't have to have all these secrets, but you just have one authentication method, and then you can get to these secrets. Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's always the case with these centralized approach that you really need to take care of that secret that you need to access the Vault.
And then a policy is something to give access control to clients for specific type of secrets. So, for example, if you want to give admin access to RabbitMQ credentials, we can do that, but we can give the system, the application that we built, access to create a TLS certificate. Okay. And they have different kind of credentials, different kind of auth methods.
All right. Nice.
What's also important for secret management is auditing, and you can configure multiple audit devices for HashiCorp Vault. So, for example, you have a logging audit device, and it will log all requests and responses in JSON format. And then you can import it in your Elastic Stack, for example. So you can create dashboards and you can create, you can audit your secrets. Nice. And the storage backend is also very important because that's the durable storage of Vault. So, for example, you have a file backend where you save all your secrets in an encrypted way on file storage. But there's also something like SQL, for example, or console, which is also from HashiCorp, to distribute those secrets.
Nice. And then at the start of your talk, you mentioned it was open source, right?
Yep.
So it should be pretty easy to create additional storage backends, device, stuff like that.
It's when we used this 2 years ago, we saw a few storage backends, file and console, and they also accept community storage backends, for example. And I think there are like 15, I think now. So it's growing, and it's
something to choose from.
Yeah. Nice. So that's the key terminology of Vault. And I built a demo application to showcase some of the features. But first, I'm going to introduce the application with a problem, because I have a scenario where Bob, which is the ops guy, he needs to manage a RabbitMQ instance, and for that he needs to log in to RabbitMQ management, and he uses a terminal for that. But the secrets are created beforehand, and they are generated with some kind of generator, and it's very hard to remember the credentials.
Probably he has some kind of key pass or key.
Well, that's what you hope.
Yeah, what you hope. And that's all locally for Ops Bob and not for anybody else.
Exactly. And you hope that they use a key pass, for example, but not all scenarios in real life are using that kind of solutions. And in my scenario, Bob just has a desktop file.
I thought it's sticky on his monitor. it's a little bit.
Yeah, you still need to log in the terminal. So, but it's not very secure. So it's a big no-no.
Yes.
So the solution, my demo application interacts with HashiCorp Vault, and Bob can log into the demo application. Is authenticated with Vault with these credentials. So I'm not using something like OpenID Connect where I can delegate the authentication, but which is also possible. And when he's authenticated, he can retrieve RabbitMQ credentials from the demo application. The demo application will use his credentials to create a set of temporary credentials in RabbitMQ, which he can use to log in. What's nice about this solution is you can add policies for Bob that he may or may not authenticate with Vault, and he may or may not create the credentials that you want. So that's your role-based access control.
Yeah, what I really like about this scenario is that compared to a password manager such as 1Password or KeePass, stuff like that, it really creates only temporary credentials. So you could have let Bob access the queue for like 30 minutes and then clean it up, and the password's no use anymore. That's nice.
Which I also gonna show because I configured this, and I'm gonna show that you have temporary credentials in RabbitMQ, which are automatically deleted by Vault for you. So
nice.
So if you leak those credentials, they're only valid for like 5-6 minutes. And
let's face it, Bob is probably going to leak those credentials.
Probably, if he saves the credentials to his desktop file, it's already leaked. So exactly. Another thing from within Vault. So that's a great solution, I think. So the demo application is .NET Core. I use a NuGet package, Vault Sharp, which is a community-supported package for HashiCorp Vault. And it's just an abstraction over the HTTP API. And as I said, it's a showcase of multiple secret engines and auth methods. Vault is set up in dev server mode, which is important here, because it's not something you want to use in production, because the dev server mode uses in-memory storage, has a default root token to authenticate with Vault. So and I'm using HTTP. So it's
not durable, not secure. Don't use it in production.
Do not use in production, but it's very easy for demos and local development. And I'm gonna show multiple secret engines where RabbitMQ is one of them, and then the user pass and AppRole auth methods. User pass for Bob, and app role for the application.
Okay.
So authentication and access control. I'm using the default ASP.NET Core cookie authentication.
Yep.
I'm going to use user pass and give policies for RabbitMQ and TOTP and the app role for the demo application. So the demo finally. The secret engine is used for the dynamic credentials, and let's just go to the code.
Yes.
So this is my my demo application, which is just a default ASP.NET Core application. And what I did, well, I'm just going to start it first because I think that's it's always nice. I'm going to start, but I need to provision my Vault instance first, which I did not do yet. So I'm going to start from scratch. And I've got a Docker Compose file for to host a RabbitMQ instance and to host a Vault instance.
Okay.
And default, if you run the Vault Docker container, it starts in dev mode if you add a dev root token.
Yeah.
You can also use Vault Docker containers in production, but you need to set it up.
And if you see here, you start RabbitMQ, and then if you start it, you can pass in, for instance, the admin username and password, but you don't do that. So it's there's no authentication in there anymore.
Yeah, a RabbitMQ default, if you start it, you have the guest admin account, which is also not something you want to use in production, but it's a demo. So, so I'm gonna start my Docker instance. Docker.
But that is to stress that all the authentication stuff is done from Vault. You don't have, you know, you don't have provisioned any users up front.
Yep. So it's creating. So okay, great. I'm gonna show what I have now. What did I do wrong? Oh, it's HTTP.
There it is.
The default HTTPS redirect from Chrome.
Yeah.
It's bugging me. So I'm gonna log in. Just a default RabbitMQ. I did nothing with it. And I also have a Vault instance now, which is this is the UI from Vault. And I have a default token, which is called my root.
Yeah, that's the one you set up as an environment variable, right? Yeah.
Well, I've just got nothing running now, but okay. And I also have set up my my CLI.
The Vault CLI.
Yep. Which I already pre-configured with environment variables from Windows to locate the URL of the endpoint and also the default root.
Right.
So
it can have access to the actual Vault instance.
Yep. So okay, and now what we first need to do is add a secret engine.
Okay.
And I'm gonna add the RabbitMQ secret engine
to the CLI.
To the CLI, exactly. It's something you do up front. So great, secret engine enabled, and I need to configure Vault with the endpoint settings and also an account. Which I can do from the CLI with Vault write, and then I'm gonna write to a specific path, which RabbitMQ is the name of the backend, and it uses a virtual file system, so you can easily allocate different kind of paths, and I need to configure the guest account.
And you can basically organize that any way you want.
For each secret engine, it's specific setup.
Okay.
So you can enable multiple RabbitMQ backends, but and then you're going to use a named backend.
Yeah.
The default name is just the RabbitMQ if you do not give a name here.
Yeah.
But if I would name it blah blah, this would be blah blah.
Okay.
So I'm going to add the connection settings. Great. So now Vault knows how to connect with RabbitMQ.
And it uses this guest account. That is.
And it uses the guest account. Yep.
In this case.
Well, normally you would create a Vault account.
Exactly.
For that. And then I'm gonna configure the time to live for the credentials that the user will get.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is a lease file. I have a JSON file here. A RabbitMQ lease in JSON. It's just TTL of 360 seconds.
Okay.
So what were the two different values in that file?
TTL.
Because you've got a TTL and max TTL.
Yeah, this is the default. So you can, when you retrieve a secret from Vault, you can ask for a specific TTL.
Okay.
But if you do not give a TTL, you get the default.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
And you also can configure a max TTL.
And you cannot ask for anything higher than your max.
Yep. So if you
Yeah.
ask for
Makes
460, you get 360
Yeah.
seconds.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm gonna add the lease as well. And then I need to configure a role for the access control. And I've got a role here. And this is the RabbitMQ role that will be created when you ask for the specific credentials. So I'm gonna tag it with management, and I'm giving star rights to all vhosts.
And if you do it like this, please take the the Pluralsight course on escaping JSON.
All right.
Because it's horrible, but there's a CLI for that.
It's probably somebody working on a YAML plugin.
Yeah, probably.
So I configured the RabbitMQ backend.
This is pretty straightforward. I really like
Yeah.
this file system
Yeah,
approach.
Vault is also very good documentation.
Okay.
And it is also some great resources, which I'm going to link later.
Okay.
I configured the user role, and now I need to configure the user itself, because Bob needs to authenticate.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna add I'm just gonna explain it, and then I copy paste it, because also I need to copy paste multiple times. I'm gonna add the user pass authentication mechanism, and then I need to do some tricky stuff to configure the specific policy, which I'm gonna show here. The specific user policy for TOTP, which I'm going to show later. But the user pass authentication backend gets a unique name every time you enable it. Yeah. I need to have that unique name.
So it's like an identifier for the Vault method.
Yeah.
You need to get it from the Vault.
So I need to do some tricky stuff to create a correct policy for the user.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to write the policy and I name it app users, and then I create a user called Bob with a password, so I can log in with Bob password, and I give it the policy app users, which I created here.
Yeah.
So when I do this,
so this is all very nicely scripted. You can also do this through the web UI.
You can not do this through the web UI, but the web UI also has a Vault CLI plugin. Okay. So you can do it from the plugin. But normally you would do this beforehand when you set up your Vault installation.
So the web UI is more for viewing only, like getting information out of Vault, not really for setting it up.
Yep.
Well, you should script this stuff anyway, because you want it to be repeatable.
Exactly.
I really like a tool that forces you to script it.
And I combine PowerShell now. So with the Vault CLI commands. Okay, great. So I created a policy and I created a user, and I'm going to show that policy. Because what I did, I gave the policy the path RabbitMQ creds user role. So I'm giving it the user role. So when someone tries to read this credential from this path, it has the access to read it, and also for TOTP. It can read. It's just basically CRUD for all your specific requests.
So Bob, let me see if I understand correctly. Bob, if he uses this credential, he can only read secrets, but he cannot update or delete or create secrets.
Yep. So I set it up. I already, yep, I got Bob. So now I am going to log in. Great, I got logged in, and what I did was I used the user pass authentication method.
Yeah.
And so now I can create a RabbitMQ credentials. I can say, okay, create new credentials, great. So now I got a temporary username and password, and a least duration of 6 minutes. Yeah. So
cool. And this was created with because Bob only had read access to the secret, so this was created from the application account, right?
No,
or not?
No. I used the credentials of Bob. Yeah. Which Bob has a specific policy to create RabbitMQ credentials. Okay. So it has the policy to read. It's kind of weird, but you read from a specific endpoint. Yeah. That creates credentials. So if you say if you want to. If you read it, you create a specific set. Okay.
Yeah. So the policy basically means I can generate credentials for this system.
Yeah. Okay. If you would use a key value store, then the read is used to retrieve the secret. But the update can, if you give it the update policy, you can also update the secret. Right. So then it's used differently. Okay. So I'm gonna log in to showcase. This first I need to look. I'm still here logged in as a user guest. Yeah. So what I'm gonna show is that the user is indeed created. And it has the tags management and it has can access all hosts. So I'm gonna showcase it. I can also log in with that account. So
this is my password.
No, it's just a GUID. So, not an admin user. I was going to an admin page. So basically, I just logged in, and I can give specific rights to the user to view specific queues or read specific queues.
But that's what you do in RabbitMQ because
but you can configure Vault that it can only access specific queues, and it's not something you want to use for your Bob user, but you may use it for your applications.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing, that you have specific product engines because it knows how to give rights within RabbitMQ. So you can completely do that through Vault. So that's pretty nice.
Yeah, and I can configure multiple roles in that secret engine.
Cool. Yep. So it's not just username and password, but you can also configure your system through Vault, and that's pretty nice.
Yep. That's very nice.
Yeah. So now I'm just gonna wait a few minutes till I get logged out.
So how do you have this set up in production? Because I know you're using also RabbitMQ in your project. You've got multiple services. Yep. They all have their own account, I guess, in Asheville.
Yep. You would give every system in your application its own account, and then you can give it specific policies.
Yeah. So and then they've got access to only the queues they want. Yep. And what's the time to live that you're using?
In our case, we're using, I think, like an hour or something.
An hour or something.
Yeah. And you need to build something in your application. Of course. Yeah. You need to.
So the service itself needs to deal with that scenario where it gets an access denied and it goes back to the vault to refresh the token.
That's something what you can do, but you can also prolong your access.
like a refresh.
A refresh. Yeah. Nice. So that's something you need to build into your application, which is not default.
Is there a push mechanism, like some signal from Vault telling a service, watch out, your time to live is almost expired and you need to refresh?
You request a token, and when you retrieve the token, you know the lifetime.
Yeah, so you can also monitor for that.
Yeah. So else it would be too complex, and you're going to integrate them too much, I think.
Yeah, but if you know what the time to live is when you get it, then it's fine. You can just set a timer to refresh it yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So my 6 minutes are not over yet. I'm just going to show the code first, and then you're going to see later that we're logged out automatically. So what do I have here? first I have an account controller to log in.
Yeah. And within this project, you only have one NuGet package that you reference from this project, right?
Yep, I have Vault Sharp. Normally you would use the NuGet package. I included in the solution. I cloned the package because I added some new features, which I need to contribute back, which I haven't done yet.
Yeah.
Maybe zoom in just a little bit.
Yeah. All right. So this is just the default MVC controller, and I got a login view model, and the view model got the username and the password from that it retrieves, and then I create an auth method, which is this is Vault Sharp specific class, and then I'm gonna give it the Vault client settings, an input URI and auth method, and then I create a Vault client instance. So with this instance, I can talk to Vault through Vault Sharp. So here I'm gonna ask for some capabilities of that specific user role to know if I got read writes, because I can use that in the application to know if I want to show that create RabbitMQ credentials bullet. And I also do that for the TOTP, which I come back to later. So I'm gonna add that information to my claim set, right, from within the MPC cookie authentication. So what's great about this is the cookie is encrypted when I give it back to the user. And the login auth info that I used got a client token as well, which I also add to the cookie. So then every time Bob comes back to me, I got his cookie, and I can use his client token to communicate with Vault.
Nice.
So that's what this code just does. It signs in, and then you have the cookie with the great claims principle. So that's one. And then I got the Vault credentials controller for RabbitMQ, and it's just a post action, the button to create credentials, and here I'm creating a Vault user client, and then I can use the default user property from an MVC controller, and I can find its client token. So now I got his token, then I create a new Vault client, and then I'm not using the user pass authentication method, but the token method, which is the default method from Vault. So every auth method will result in a token, and you can also always use a token to authenticate with Vault. So then I have an instance of Vault client for that user, and I'm gonna use the secret backend RabbitMQ get credentials for that specific role, user role. So now I got credentials, and it's a secret object from Vault Sharp, which contains the username, the password, and I also extract the least ratio from that secret. And I'm going to return it to the view. So now you have your username and password.
And RabbitMQ credential is something that you created.
This is my own view model. So I'm using Vault Sharp to interact with Vault. Then I get a specific secret, a Vault Sharp secret, which is just an abstraction of the JSON. It's just a JSON model from Vault. But I don't want to use the Vault Sharp objects in my own application when I'm gonna.
Makes sense.
So that's as simple as that.
Cool.
Let's see if I got logged out already. Great, I'm logged out. Login failed. So
nice.
Vault removed the token after 6 minutes, and now I can't use it anymore. So great.
Nice.
I'm gonna use So it's logged out. So great.
Cool.
Temporary credential for RabbitMQ.
I like it.
Yep. All right. So this was the RabbitMQ credentials.
Cool.
I got some other secret backends as well to show.
So we got two-factor authentication and TLS and
Kabial.
And
Kabial.
cubby hole, I think.
Yeah.
Something with a hole.
Which I'm going to show in the next part.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So make sure you check out the next part, and then we'll go into these topics. Thanks for watching, and see you at the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.